Nebula lightning flashed in violent arcs as Lieutenant Kade Mercer staggered from the wreckage of his escape pod. The air tasted metallic, sharp like charged ions, and every breath felt borrowed. Yet something deeper than instinct told him he was not alone. Shadows moved with too much precision to be wind. Shapes too tall, too fluid, glided around him in a silent circle. He reached for his sidearm, but the weapon disassembled itself in midair, unraveling into glittering dust before it ever left its holster. The being stepped forward, towering silhouettes armored in shimmering plates that shifted color like living metal. Their eyes, if they were eyes, glowed with bioluminescent depth. One extended a hand, not in threat, but command. Tendrils of soft blue light wrapped around Kade's body, lifting him effortlessly from the ground. His heartbeat pounded a frantic rhythm against the alien calm that surrounded him, yet he sensed no malice, only purpose. They carried him into a cathedral wrought entirely from crystalline bone and mineral. Pillars curved like the ribs of some ancient titan, glowing faintly with an inner pulse. The floor beneath him felt warm, almost alive, responding to his footsteps with ripples of light. A long aisle opened to a vast chamber where 12 colossal figures sat upon thrones grown directly from the living structure. Their crowns of luminous tendrils cascaded like waterfalls of starlight. The central figure rose. Her presence filled the chamber, bending the air with silent authority. When she spoke, her voice resonated through Kade's bones rather than his ears. "Human soldier," she intoned, every syllable ancient and unyielding. "You have not arrived by chance. The next generation stands on the brink, and only you may restore balance. You will aid our young. This is the decree of the Matriarch court." Kade swallowed hard. He had escaped one battlefield only to be drafted into another. One written in the stars long before he was born. Kade stepped aboard the Matriarch vessel with a wary heart, watching as the interior shifted around him like a living kaleidoscope. The ship moved without engines, gliding on gravitational currents that hummed through the floor. Before long, the vessel descended toward the first of the Nursery moons, Sci-Fi, a world of metallic plains that flashed like mirrors beneath a blazing white sun. As soon as he set foot on its surface, the ground trembled with the rhythmic impacts of training broods. Young Zyrathi warriors, their crystalline bodies half-formed, shifted shape in bursts of liquid light. They mimicked combat patterns with precise, rigid logic. And that was the problem. Selavari explained that their warriors had lost unpredictability, the spark that once made them formidable. Kade watched a pair spar, each strike predictable enough for even him to anticipate. His pulse sharpened. This he could teach. By the second moon, Veluna, the air thickened with an empathic field so strong it pressed against his thoughts. The younglings here pulsed with emotional resonance, drifting like luminous specters across floating platforms. When they touched him, they felt everything he tried to hide. The fear he carried from the crash, the grief buried deep from battles past, the small buried hope he never admitted to himself. Yet instead of recoiling, they reached toward him with a tenderness that made his breath catch. Their emotions blended with his until the boundary between species blurred. Here, he taught them restraint, how to carry empathy without being drowned by it. On Rethuan, the third moon, survival itself became the lesson. The environment shifted without warning. Forests grew in minutes, storms formed in seconds. The younglings mimicked his instincts, copying his movements with uncanny speed. Kade realized then that he wasn't simply instructing them. He was imprinting upon them, becoming a template they would carry into their future. And that future was beginning to look dangerously entangled with his own. Twilight stretched across Rethun like a fractured prism when the first tremor rippled through the training grounds. Kade felt it before he heard it. A thrum in the air, a subtle wrongness that set every instinct on edge. The younglings near him froze, their crystalline bodies dimming in unison. Then came the sound, a piercing harmonic cry that vibrated through the marrow of the moon. It was not a call of welcome, it was a declaration of revolt. Shadows erupted from the ridge beyond the spiral canyons. Figures, slimmer and harsher in shape than the matriarch broods, moved with jagged intent. Their armor lacked the warm bioluminescence of the court. Instead, it shone with cold, fractured light. The Broodless, exiled matriarchs and followers who had forsaken the cycle, charged with a zeal fueled by bitterness. Kade barely had time to shield the younglings before the first blast of concussive energy shook the ground. A broodless warrior lunged toward him, weaponized tendrils whipping like blades. Kade ducked and rolled, grabbing a shard of crystallized terrain to deflect a strike. The younglings behind him shuddered in confusion, caught between fear and the instinct to protect their human teacher. One, smaller than the rest, stepped forward with a courage that made Kade's pulse lurch. Its body unfolded into a semi-solid barrier that deflected a deadly blow meant for him. "Humans corrupt the lineage," the Broodless leader roared, her voice harsh and cracking like breaking stone. "We will not let an outsider contaminate the next generation." Before they could strike again, a resonant wave tore through the battlefield. The Matriarch court descended in a blaze of harmonic light, their presence silencing the rebellion mid-motion. The Broodless fell to their knees, overwhelmed by the sheer force of the Matriarch's command. Selavari approached Kade, her tendrils dim with solemn understanding. "Your influence frightens those who cannot see the future. But the young have chosen you, and that choice now reshapes us all." Kade stared at the trembling juveniles clustered around him, and realized with unsettling clarity that his role in their destiny was no longer optional. It was inevitable. The Starwell chamber opened before Kade like the interior of a living sun. Rivers of luminescent energy cascaded down from the vaulted ceiling, pooling into swirling currents that pulsed with the heartbeat of the Zarathi species. The hum of it resonated in his bones, stirring something he couldn't name. The younglings he had trained stood in a semicircle behind him, their bodies gleaming with shifting hues that reflected their emotions: hope, fear, anticipation. They watched him as if waiting for a verdict that would shape their futures. Selavari stepped forward, her massive form outlined in radiant gold. Her presence softened, no longer the imperious force that first commanded him, but something almost vulnerable. "Lieutenant Mercer," she said, voice echoing through the chamber, "your trials are complete. Now comes the choice that binds worlds." Kade's throat tightened as she continued. "You may return to your people with what you have learned, carrying knowledge that could alter humanity's destiny, or you may remain with us and guide the next generation into the era that approaches. Know this, your presence has awakened dormant potential within them. Without you, that potential may fade. With you, it may flourish into something neither species has seen before." Her tendrils glowed with a deeper shade as she revealed the truth she had long concealed. "Our histories are not distant. Humans carry remnants of our ancient seed. We are kin divided by time, not strangers born apart." The revelation struck him harder than any battle wound. His memories of war, of loss, of searching for purpose, suddenly they felt like stepping stones leading him here. The younglings approached, shimmering softly, their trust palpable. One reached out a small crystalline hand. Kade exhaled slowly. He understood. Walking away meant abandoning them in a moment of fragile becoming. Staying meant dedicating his life to a future intertwined with theirs. He stepped into the Starwell's light. "If your next generation needs me," he said quietly, "then I stay." The chamber erupted in a harmonious blaze, binding human and Zarathi futures together in a single luminous breath.